In 1966, the Beatles were absolutely the biggest band on the planet. Wherever in the world they flew to perform, they'd be greeted stepping off the plane down the stairs by screaming fans, cheering and wanting the Beatles to come and perform and play for them, full of excitement. But when the Beatles actually arrived in Japan, things were very different. Rather than a sea of screaming fans there to greet them, instead they were met by security personnel and police who were worried about the safety of the Beatles, because unknown to the Beatles, after they announced they were going to perform in Japan, they were receiving death threats. Here I am outside the Budokan in Tokyo, Japan. This is the venue that the Beatles were scheduled to perform in 1966. But until the point of the Beatles concerts, no music had ever been performed inside of the Budokan. Instead, the building was purposefully built for traditional Japanese martial arts tournaments. So when it was announced that the Beatles were going to play in this place, a lot of people were understandably a bit upset about the traditional nature of the building being used for things like Western rock and roll and young decadent music and stuff like that. So unbeknown to the Beatles, during the whole time that they were here, death threats were sent to them. They were received by their record label and by their management, but they never actually informed the Beatles during the time they were here. So instead, the Japanese authorities and the police did a really slick operation. All of the audience were asked to sit down throughout the whole performance so that they could protect the Beatles, make sure that there was no snipers in the audience or anything like that, that they could see the key vantage points and make sure that they were made safe during all of the performances. The Beatles, during the whole time they were here, were asked to stay inside their hotel. They stayed at the Hilton in Tokyo, and they were inside their room. A couple of people were allowed to go and see them, obviously their team and things. They met a pop star who they had a meal with, but they weren't actually allowed out. On a couple of different occasions, John Lennon escaped and went looking around town a bit, but was very quickly found by police and escorted straight back to the hotel. The same thing happened with Paul McCartney. He was heading for the Meiji, which is a traditional shrine, and he wanted to see that, but they picked him up before he got there and brought him back to the hotel. So all the time the Beatles were in the hotel, not knowing the danger that they were in, but that they were asked to remain, you know, in the hotel and to not go out, and these kinds of things to make sure they were safe. They didn't actually realize that their lives were kind of in danger, had been threatened. So they planned a trip to go to a place called Kamakura, which is where a lot of traditional Buddhist shrines and things are. It's in the countryside. But when they asked if they could go there, the authorities had said they couldn't guarantee their safety if they did go there. So the Beatles cancelled the trip, and instead they spent most of the time in their hotel room actually making a huge piece of kind of abstract psychedelic art, like a painting that they did together. Now, I'm a guitar teacher who specializes in helping adult beginners who are over 50 years old to overcome any challenges they're having and help them to get playing their favorite songs on guitar. Typically, my students learn between 1 and 5 complete songs of their choosing each month. You might wonder why I'm here talking about the Beatles and talking about the Budokan, and the reason behind this is each week I teach my students a particular song that they would like to learn, that they choose, and that is something they're passionate about, learning how to play. And the one we're doing this week, we're focusing on Day Tripper, which is a song that the Beatles played at every performance that they did at the Budokan here in Japan. So at the moment, I've opened up a few spaces for new students, just a handful of them. So if you're an adult beginner, you've had your guitar a long time, or you're going from the very, very beginning because you've reached some sticking points or challenges that you've not been able to overcome, I've opened up my calendar to have a chat about if and how I can help you to overcome those challenges and learn to play your favorite songs. So I've dropped a link below this video to my calendar. If you click that, you'll be able to see the days that I have slots available. Book in a time that works for you. Let's book a call. Let's have a chat about how I can help you to overcome any challenges you've had so far, going from the very beginning, and get you playing complete songs, the kind of songs that you'd like to play, your music and the ones that you choose. Not just the Beatles, but because my audience is always, I specialise in helping people over 50 years old. We have covered a fair amount of the Beatles songs, but there's a range of different things that we do. So click the link below and I'll talk to you soon.